Most impressive Bob Ross paintings. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 most impressive Bob Ross paintings. For this list, we'll be looking at some of the most interesting and accomplished paintings by the iconic, soothingly voiced artist. Which is your favorite? Let us know in the comment section below. Who was Bob Ross? Robert Norman Ross was an American painter, art instructor, and television host. He was the creator and host of The Joy of Painting, an instructional television program that aired from 1983 to 1994 on PBS in the United States, Canada, Latin America, and Europe. Ross was raised in Orlando, Florida after completing 1 year of high school and working for a time as a carpenter with his father. Ross enlisted at age 18 in the United States Air Force. While stationed in Alaska, he took his first painting class at the United Service Organizations Club in the early 1960s. However, he learned a technique that would make his career, the wet-on-wet a la prima oil painting technique, from television painting instructor Bill Alexander, whose show The Magic of Oil Painting aired on PBS from 1974 to 1982. The wet-on-wet technique involved applying oil paint on top of still wet oil paint rather than waiting between layers for the paint to dry. This allowed the composition to be completed quickly, which made the technique particularly suitable for the half-hour television program structure. Ross painted prolifically while serving in the military and sold paintings of the Alaskan landscape to tourists. In 1981, he retired from the military and sought out private painting lessons with Alexander, eventually taking the place of and proving much more successful than his teacher on PBS. The Joy of Painting premiered in 1983 and ran for 11 years. His most iconic paintings. Number 10. Northern Lights. What we wouldn't give to be in that cabin on that cold blue winter night. The painting is done on a black background with predominant blues and whites added. The aurora borealis are painted using brushes and the mountains are painted using a spatula. This gives them more texture. The trees and cabin are painted last, as it's customary to always paint the distant elements first and work your way forward. The contrasts in this piece are really striking and keep the eye engaged, and the result is a peaceful, dreamy, cold evening. The inhabitants of that cabin are probably sitting by the fire, enjoying the cozy solitude. Featuring one of the world's most beautiful natural phenomenon, the aurora borealis, also known as the Northern Lights. It's no shock that this painting secured the top spot, being painted almost 25% more than the second place. Ocean Sunrise is dominating our charts. While most of the painting is a pretty basic winter scene, the Northern Lights make this one of the most beloved and most painted episodes of them all. Bob teaches us a great way to create colorful, swirly skies with just a little bit of color over a dark painted canvas. Number 9. Ebony Sea. This piece is begun on a dark canvas in order to really underline the poignancy of the colors. Ross begins with a dreamy night sky, lining the ocean and waves with a white spatula detail. The ochre rocky cliffs are also sharpened using a spatula, and the darkened trees are lightly highlighted to maintain a gentle tone. This painting really has a meditative feel to it. We can imagine ourselves sitting on a cliffside, breathing in the sea air and listening to the music nature provides in the crashing waves and soft winds. Perhaps the spirit of Bob Ross is sitting beside us. Number 8. Tropical Seascape. On a light background, Ross paints an ethereal tropical sky using transparency. The darker colors are reserved for the periphery of the canvas, which is a trick to draw the eye to remain focused on the painting in its entirety from the center. The colors of the sky are beautifully projected onto and through the rising wave. The palm trees are painted last, as they are the closest element. The entire scene is so vibrant. Despite its seeming simplicity with color, it truly carries us to the beach, and we can almost hear the gentle waves and feel the sand between our bare toes. Being one of the most unusual yet visually appealing Bob Ross paintings, it's no wonder that Tropical Seascape made it into this list. This painting breaks every mold. Big palm trees instead of happy little trees, breaking waves instead of mighty mountains, and a dramatic colorful sky devoid of fluffy old clouds. While other paintings stray from the classical Bob Ross formula, none of them do it while looking this aesthetically pleasing. Number 7. Campfire. In this one-of-a-kind masterpiece, Bob Ross paints a vibrant golden red glow complete with cowboy rest in the wild by the crackling flames. This piece comes up as a favorite quite often. It is a good example of the rule of thirds in art, that any piece should be divided into a 9-square grid in order to achieve an interesting composition. The campfire itself is placed following this rule, as it is approximately 2/3 to the right of the painting, as well as 2/3 down. Ross begins with a sharp red glow of the fire and works his way from there. The painting is completed with details using a spatula. It is a really striking image, intimate and private. It reminds us of nights out in the wilderness, wrapped in warm ponchos by the dancing fire. Number 6. Shades of Gray. Bob Ross paints a breathtaking sky that hovers over fantastic snow-capped mountain peaks and produces crystal-clear reflections in a calm lake. Bob Ross was basically the Mr. Rogers of painting, and this piece is a great example of this. When he met a colorblind fan who told him he could never paint due to his condition, Ross begged to differ. He then did an episode in which he painted using only grayscale on a white background. Ross creates a rich tone of gray using a variety of colors. The sky is painted using a larger brush, and the mountains are traced using a spatula to increase the sharpness. The mountains closest to the river are darker to create depth, and touches of snow are peppered throughout. It's a truly striking piece. Number 5. Winter Sun. Find the glistening sun peeking through the trees in a wintry scene. American painter Bob Ross creates a cold day warmed by daylight's radiance. This serene winter scene is started on a white background to convey the cold feeling with a large brush. Ross works with transparency to produce the sun and winter sky, and trees are added using the tip of a larger brush. The scene is completed using a spatula and white hues to show layers of snow. As Ross was well aware, and we've noted, it's important to always start with the furthest distance in the scene and work your way to the foreground. The result is a stunning winter landscape with a small reflective pond and the yellow vibrant sun warming the otherwise cold picture. Number 4. Snow Birch. Travel with Bob Ross and delight in discovery of a birch forest mirrored in the cold stillness of winter. This painting is slightly different from the others, as it has a bit of a surreal feel to it. On a black gesso background, seemingly a favorite of Ross's, birch trees are textured with whites and grays, with an overlay of transparent colors applied with a larger brush. The white snow, resembling fluffy clouds, provides a separation between the trees and their reflections. This is another Ross painting that depicts a sort of intimate glance, a moment of meditation. It's a very straightforward painting, but still evokes that pensive spark. Number 3. Golden Rays of Sunshine. Take a walk through a shadowy forest with Bob Ross and delight at golden sunbeams piercing the darkness. For this one, Ross begins with a black gesso background and adds texture using cloth. He then uses white and dark colors to create the trees and branches, beginning with the lighter and completing with the paler, creating both contrast and depth. A foam brush is used for any foreground elements, as the texture creates a sense of close proximity. The result is really reminiscent of walking in the woods on a sunny day and glancing up for a moment to see the sun's rays peeking through the trees. It almost resembles a photograph. Number 2. Cabin in the Woods. Enjoy the peace of a calm evening by taking a walk with Bob Ross through the enchanted timberlands of America just before nightfall. One of Ross's many cabins, this one is particularly inviting and impressive. Ross begins with a green and dark brown background, adding whites to create depth and atmosphere. Further detail is created on the canvas with carefully painted leaves, shrubs, textured barks, and tree branches. Ross really was a master of creating inviting scenes, as this one really gives the impression that the viewer can enter the painting and take a peaceful stroll. You can almost hear the birds call and scurrying squirrels and perhaps one of Ross's babbling brooks in the distance. The entire scene has the potential to seem lonely, but the colors and overall picture are somehow warm. And number 1, Graceful Waterfall. Bob Ross demonstrates how to capture the amazing beauty of an elegant waterfall with careful brush strokes and a vibrant palette. Bob brings the landscape to life. Though Ross has many paintings that could be deemed a top pick, we had to pick this one. Ross again starts here with a black gesso background, which makes all the subsequent colors he uses really pop. Working with large paint brushes, he begins with transparency and finishes up with paler colors to create thickness. The result is an ethereal waterfall nestled in some vibrant leaves. We can almost hear the meditative roar of the waterfall, and it's really soothing. Bob Ross really has a great way of creating calm, intimate landscapes, and a graceful waterfall is the prime example of this. With that, we end today's video. Join in the next time for more interesting content.